The sun had just begun its slow descent over the small town's horizon, casting an amber glow across the streets as Michael Carter parked his motorcycle near the diner. A decorated war veteran, Michael had returned to civilian life with quiet dignity, preferring peace over conflict. His tall, broad frame and calm demeanor made him appear approachable, yet there was an unmistakable strength behind his dark eyes, a strength born of years of discipline, training, and battles both seen and unseen. Michael had been traveling cross-country, taking the long roads that allowed him to breathe in freedom, something he had fought for alongside his fellow soldiers. That evening, he stopped in this quiet town to rest and grab a hot meal. He was dressed simply, jeans, a leather jacket worn from the road, and boots that had seen better days. Despite his modest appearance, there was something about him that made people take a second glance, perhaps the way he carried himself, with his back straight and steps measured. Inside the diner, the chatter of locals filled the air. Michael sat by the window, ordered a plate of steak and potatoes, and enjoyed the simple pleasure of good food. For a while, it was peaceful, almost like he could forget the world outside. But trouble often has a way of finding those who don't seek it. Just as Michael finished his meal, a group of bikers roared into the parking lot. Their engines thundered, shaking the windows, and heads turned as they entered the diner. They were a rough-looking crew, leather jackets covered in patches, chains hanging from their belts, and tattoos that told stories of rebellion and lawlessness. There were 6 of them, each carrying themselves with an air of dominance, as though they owned every place they walked into. The leader, a tall man with a scruffy beard and a scar running down his cheek, scanned the room and locked eyes on Michael. There was no reason for it, no provocation, no conflict, but the biker leader seemed to feel challenged by the quiet confidence radiating from the veteran. He smirked, elbowed one of his buddies, and whispered something that made them all chuckle. "Hey," the leader called out, his voice loud enough for everyone in the diner to hear. "That's a nice bike you got out there, stranger. Yours, ain't it?" Michael didn't look up immediately. He took a sip of his water before meeting the man's gaze. "Yeah," he replied simply. The biker leader stepped closer, his boots clunking on the wooden floor. "Looks like the kind of bike that might get stolen if someone ain't careful. You sure you can handle it?" The room went silent. The waitress froze with a tray of drinks in her hands, and a couple sitting by the counter exchanged nervous glances. They had seen this crew around town before and knew they thrived on intimidation. Michael set down his glass slowly, his calm demeanor unwavering. "I can handle it," he said, his voice even and controlled. One of the other bikers, a stocky man with a shaved head, laughed. "Oh, we got ourselves a tough guy here, huh? You think you can take us on, old man?" Michael's jaw tightened slightly at the insult, but he didn't rise to their bait. "I don't want any trouble," he said, standing up and reaching for his wallet to pay for his meal. But the leader wasn't satisfied. He moved to block Michael's path, standing only a foot away. "Trouble's already here," he sneered. "You see, we don't like outsiders coming through our town acting like they own the place. So how about you hand over your keys and maybe we'll let you walk away?" Michael studied the man's face. His training had taught him to read people, to see their intentions before they even moved. These weren't just drunk bullies, they were looking for a fight. But Michael wasn't afraid. He'd been in far worse situations than this, and every instinct in his body told him that if they pushed him too far, they'd regret it. "I'm not giving you my keys," Michael said firmly, his voice carrying a quiet authority that made even a few of the bikers hesitate. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You got a death wish, huh?" he growled, grabbing Michael's jacket collar. That was a mistake. In a flash, Michael moved. His hand shot up, breaking the biker's grip with precise force, and he twisted the man's wrist in a way that made him cry out in pain. The other bikers were caught off guard, but Michael wasn't done. He stepped forward, using his shoulder to push the leader back and create distance. Years of combat training had honed his movements to be efficient, fast, and devastating. "Back off," Michael warned, his voice low but commanding. The stocky biker with the shaved head lunged forward, but Michael sidestepped, grabbing the man's arm and using his momentum to slam him face first into a nearby table. The entire diner gasped, some of the customers scrambling to get out of the way. Michael's movements were fluid, calculated, every strike and block a testament to his years of martial training. Two more bikers tried to rush him at once, but Michael ducked, pivoted, and landed a quick elbow strike to one man's ribs while sweeping the other's legs out from under him. In less than 30 seconds, 3 of them were groaning on the ground, and the rest were staring in disbelief. The leader got back to his feet, clutching his wrist, his face twisted with rage. "Who the hell are you?" he spat. Michael looked at him, his expression calm but deadly serious. "Just someone who's not afraid of you," he said. The room was silent except for the heavy breathing of the defeated bikers. The leader seemed to consider going another round, but something in Michael's eyes made him stop. It wasn't fear that held him back, it was the realization that this man wasn't just some random traveler. He was trained, disciplined, and capable of taking them all down. "Let's get out of here," one of the bikers muttered, helping his friend off the floor. Reluctantly, the leader backed away, glaring at Michael as if promising revenge. But they all knew better than to test him again. As the roar of their motorcycles faded outside, the diner slowly came back to life. The waitress approached Michael with wide eyes. "Sir, I don't know who you are, but I've never seen anything like that," she said. Michael simply nodded, paid for his meal, and walked out into the fading sunlight. He didn't need recognition or thanks. He had fought battles most people couldn't imagine, and this was just another day, another reminder that sometimes the quietest people are the ones you should never underestimate. Would you like me to expand part 2 in 1000 words, where the bikers regroup and try to take revenge, only for Michael to outsmart them even more dramatically? The tension in the parking lot was so thick you could almost feel it weighing on everyone present. The veteran, Marcus, stood with an unshakable calmness that contrasted sharply with the gang of bikers closing in around him. Their leader, a stocky man with a shaved head and a jagged scar running across his cheek, took a step forward, his boots crunching on the gravel as he sneered. "You picked the wrong day to mess with us, old man," he spat, his tone dripping with menace. Marcus didn't respond with words. Instead, he let his eyes do the talking, steady and unyielding, the look of someone who had seen far worse than this group of leather-clad troublemakers could imagine. The first biker, a tall man with tattoos snaking down his arms, lunged forward, attempting to shove Marcus against the wall. In one swift movement, Marcus sidestepped, grabbed the biker's wrist, and twisted it with precision. The man yelped in pain as his knees buckled. Marcus didn't even need to strike him, he simply redirected the man's own aggression against him, a technique he had mastered during his years of combat training. The others froze for a split second, taken aback by how quickly the tables had turned. "Looks like the old guy's got some tricks," another biker growled, stepping forward with his fists raised. He swung wildly, but Marcus ducked effortlessly, his movements as smooth as water flowing around rocks. With a swift elbow to the ribs, Marcus knocked the wind out of him, following it up with a controlled sweep that sent the man crashing onto the pavement. It all happened so fast that the crowd that had gathered nearby gasped in shock. The leader's smirk faltered. He wasn't used to his crew being taken down like this, especially not by someone who looked like he should be enjoying retirement. "You're gonna pay for that," he snarled, signaling 2 more of his men to attack at once. They came at Marcus from both sides, trying to corner him. But Marcus was prepared. He spun to the left, grabbing one biker by his jacket and pulling him into the other's path, causing them to collide with a grunt. Without hesitation, Marcus struck the first one in the chest with a controlled palm strike, forcing him to stumble backward, gasping for air. Every move Marcus made was deliberate, efficient, and calculated. He wasn't fighting out of anger. He was simply defending himself with the discipline of a soldier who had survived countless battles. Each time a biker tried to get close, they found themselves hitting the ground, clutching at bruised ribs or twisted limbs. It became clear that Marcus wasn't just strong, he was skilled on a level they couldn't comprehend. Who are you? One of the bikers muttered, fear creeping into his voice as he crawled backward. Marcus glanced at him, his expression still calm but his voice firm. Someone who knows when to stand his ground, he said, his tone carrying the weight of experience and authority. Those words seemed to cut deeper than any punch could. The leader, unwilling to back down and risk losing face, roared in frustration and pulled out a chain from his belt, swinging it threateningly. The metallic sound of it slicing through the air made the onlookers step back, but Marcus remained unmoved. As the chain came whipping toward him, Marcus shifted his stance and caught the chain mid-swing with a quick twist of his wrist, yanking it from the leader's grip with surprising strength. Before the man could react, Marcus delivered a precise kick to his knee, forcing him to the ground with a groan of pain. The rest of the gang hesitated, exchanging nervous glances. They weren't expecting this, someone who could dismantle them so effortlessly, without even breaking a sweat. The leader clutched his knee, looking up at Marcus with a mix of pain and disbelief. You don't know who you're messing with, he spat, but the threat felt hollow now. Marcus stepped closer, towering over him. No, you don't know who you're messing with, Marcus replied, his voice low but powerful. For a moment, the entire parking lot fell silent, all eyes locked on the veteran who had just taken on a group of bikers without flinching. The bystanders, who had initially expected to see Marcus get overwhelmed, now looked at him with a newfound respect, and maybe even awe. Realizing the fight was over, the remaining bikers helped their leader up, muttering curses under their breath but avoiding Marcus's gaze. They knew they'd been beaten, not just physically but mentally. As they retreated to their bikes, one of them glanced back, his expression a mixture of fear and admiration. Let's get out of here, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Engines roared to life, and within moments, the gang was gone, leaving behind nothing but the smell of burnt rubber and bruised egos. Marcus stood there for a moment, breathing steadily, his posture still firm and composed. He didn't celebrate or gloat. Instead, he simply straightened his jacket and glanced at the people watching. It's over, he said calmly, as if it had all been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. A woman from the crowd, who had been clutching her phone, stepped forward hesitantly. Thank you, she whispered, her eyes wide with gratitude. Marcus gave her a small nod, his expression softening slightly. As the crowd dispersed, Marcus walked back to his truck, his mind already shifting away from the confrontation. To him, this wasn't about pride or proving himself, it was about survival, about knowing when to take a stand. The years he had spent in the military had taught him more than just how to fight. They had taught him discipline, restraint, and the importance of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. But as he started his engine, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter wasn't entirely over. The leader of the gang had looked at him with a burning hatred that promised future trouble. Marcus didn't fear it, but he knew better than to underestimate people driven by pride and revenge. For now, though, he was content to drive away, leaving behind a parking lot full of whispers about the quiet, unassuming man who had just shown everyone what real strength looked like. Would you like me to write part 3 in 1,000 words where the bikers try to take revenge but Marcus outsmarts them completely?